The views expressed on this program are not those of IntellectualRadio.com, its subsidiaries, or sponsors. Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady ReShell.
Hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. It is Testimonial Monday, and our topic for today is Inflammatory Breast Cancer, a Decision to Live. We are live on Intellectual Radio. We just heard from the Drive at 5 with Roman. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, Rizal and I talked about second chances are earned and not given. Go over to YouTube, type in Intellectual Radio, and stay connected. The quote of the day is, "It doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop." We are grateful for our sponsor, Pastor Michael Richardson with the Emanuel C.O.G.I.C, who has a special message for us.
Greetings, I am Pastor Michael Richardson.
And I am First Lady Anastasia Richardson from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We're located at 3058 West Van Buren in Chicago, Illinois. We are building upon a solid foundation.
And we're inviting you to join us every Sunday morning on Facebook Live at Emanuel C.O.G.I.C at 10:15 Central Standard Time. And you can also view our videos on our YouTube channel at Emanuel C.O.G.I.C-MR. Once again, this is Pastor Michael Richardson
and First Lady Anastasia Richardson, and we're from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We are building upon a solid foundation.
Here are your trending topics for today. While COVID mitigation strategies have largely been rolled back across the United States, there are still some places where masks are recommended, even required. Masking mandates were eliminated earlier in the year in most states as cases numbers are related to Omicron surge began to plummet. In Illinois, the mandate was removed at the end of February, and cases continued to drop throughout most of March. Even still, there are still situations in which residents are required to wear face coverings. Under the requirements issued by the Department of Transportation, masks are still required in airports and on airplanes, along with buses, trains, and ride-share vehicles. If you are tuned in on any form of social media, please like, share the show. Invite someone else in on the show that you feel may benefit from this valuable information. My special guest today is a 55-year-old thriver who is a wife to a wonderful husband, Larry Anderson. She's a mother of two beautiful daughters, Brianna, 26, Jasmine, 19. She is an advocate and much, much more, and she is living beyond breast cancer. Welcome to Warriors Talk, Sharon Elmore-Anderson. Hello, Sharon. You're on mute. Take yourself off mute.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sharon, for coming on and just being willing to be vulnerable and educate us on inflammatory breast cancer. So welcome.
Thank you.
Did I leave anything out, Sharon, that you wanted to add to that introduction?
No, you did fine.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to learn much, much more about Sharon today as the show progresses. So, Sharon, I wanted to kind of break the ice a little bit before we just jump right into the topic. You know, the title of the show is Warriors Talk, and I'm all things warrior. So when you hear the word warrior, what does that mean or what comes to mind?
When I hear the word warrior, I feel that me being in stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer, I feel like there's a war going on in my body. So I'm constantly at war with fighting cancer. It's a daily process for someone that's metastatic and has inflammatory breast cancer.
You are truly a warrior, actively fighting. Yes, you are. Thank you for that, Sharon. I appreciate it. Again, our topic is inflammatory breast cancer, a decision to live. and we have on here Sharon Elmore-Anderson. Sharon, speaking about Warrior, what was your introduction as it relates to breast cancer? What introduced you to that word cancer?
I didn't really know anyone that was close to me that had cancer. When I was first diagnosed in 2013, it was basically by accident. I used to have heart palpitations, and I went to the emergency room to get that checked out. And they ran a series of tests on me. They kept me overnight. They ran some more tests on me, and sent me home and told me to follow up with my cardiologist. So later that week, I was actually preparing for knee surgery. So I let that doctor know that I had been in the emergency room. And so he told me to bring my reports from the emergency room before they can do the knee surgery. And he saw that I had enlarged lymph nodes. So I'm thinking maybe some type of infection, and they didn't tell me anything at the emergency room that made me, they never mentioned it. So after that, I just went to another doctor and got a physical and got checked out. And I found out just through that process. And it was a shock to me.
Wow. I'm just surprised, like when you go to the emergency room, normally, before you leave there, they tell you what's wrong with you. That's why a lot of people like to go to the emergency room, because whatever's wrong with me, I'll find out before I leave, today. But we know that with inflammatory breast cancer, sometimes, that may not always be the case. It's not like,
Yeah.
A common breast cancer diagnosis.
Right. With inflammatory breast cancer, you don't have any lumps, bumps, no signs or symptoms. So it could have been possible for them to overlook, but it did not excuse the fact that there was enlarged lymph nodes that need to be addressed. And that's one part of my advocacy work is the disparity of treatment and being your own advocate.
Did they mention that to you, Sharon? Like, oh, we see, your lymph nodes are enlarged, which could mean it could be an infection, or, just make sure you follow up with your general doctor I would think that would be something they'd be like, wait a minute,
Yes. After the fact, I was, once I went and got examined and found out I was actually in stage 4. A lot of things went through my head. I knew nothing about cancer, just what I see on the commercials.
Right.
And when you see the commercials, they always look really sick. And I'm not trying to be funny, but they look like they're going to pass tomorrow. And that's how they portray cancer patients. So I just had heart palpitations. It was resolved with a nitroglycerin patch. Me feeling fine, looking okay. I did not understand how it could be in stage 4. I didn't feel any lumps, any bumps. I didn't understand this type of cancer. I didn't know one existed.
I think we need to, Sharon, normalize, what cancer looks like, that it doesn't always look like you're sick, you're about to pass out, you're frail.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can look just as healthy, but then your
Yes.
inside, something like you said, there was a war going on in the inside of you, but your insides can, be at war, because I think that can maybe, it could trick people into thinking I'm perfectly healthy. Like
Yes.
my outsides look healthy, but no,
Mm-hmm.
there could still be something going on in the inside. So I think those commercials can be misleading,
Yes.
making you think that, oh, that's how a cancer patient look. If you look like
Mm-hmm.
this, then you
Mm-hmm.
sick, then you have cancer.
Yes. And also back in 2013, when I see the commercials, I never saw anyone that looked like me.
No.
They didn't portray, the average African American getting cancer. We're getting cancer at the highest rate, but they
Yes.
never showed us on TV going through anything. And they never, they didn't show a patient that looked well, looked fine, looked average, didn't look sick on TV. So people get this misconception that you have to look sick or be sick to have cancer, but you can be sick on the inside, and you can have days, where you may be dealing with chronic fatigue or something like that. But when I'm out in public, you wouldn't know unless I told you.
See, I like that you brought that point out, because I think a lot of people don't don't really think about that because we associate, cancer with the bald head, with, you
Yes.
being really frail and just sickly. A lot of people don't know. Sometimes you can fake it until you make it or until you get home. And
Yes.
then when you get home, everything just fall apart. But while you out there, you
Hmm.
hold it together to do what you need to do.
Hmm.
So that's why it's so important for advocates like you to shed light on normalizing what cancer looks like, and it's not just a sickly body on the
Yeah.
outside, but
Yeah.
be worried about those insides too.
Yes. Yes.
Sarah said this is educational, so now she know some signs, so thank you.
And I also
Yeah.
like to say that I had my regular mammograms. I missed getting a mammogram in 2012. I was diagnosed in 2013. So some people think that, oh, I had a good mammogram last year, so I'm okay. That wasn't the case for me. And like I said, when I first found out and went to the emergency room, then I went to when the knee doctor told me that I needed to see someone about my lab reports. Um, I went to get a physical. The doctor asked me if I had ever had any felt any lumps or bumps on my breast. I said no. He did a check, didn't feel anything. He saw a small spot in the crease, out like big breast. He saw a small spot in the crease of my left breast. And he said, "Did you know about this little rash?" And I said, "No." And I said, "I wasn't aware of it." So he sent me to get a mammogram. Of course, the mammogram, it showed shadows. So when he got the results, he just saw shadows, and it wasn't consistent with any breast cancer he normally sees. Luckily, he took it a step further and sent me to get an ultrasound. So when they did ultrasound, I saw them clicking on my neck and everywhere and calling other radiologists in there. That's when you kind of have this notion that something's not right. So I went back to get the results read. And he said, "I see something that's suspicious. We need to send you to get a biopsy." So when I got my biopsy and got the results, that's when I was diagnosed with stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer.
How fast did you get the biopsy? Was it like the next couple of days or the day after?
Actually, the biopsy report came in the next week, the following week. So I got that the following week, and he sent me to an oncologist to confirm everything. So since I was on stage 4, I live in Houston, Texas. I elected to go to MD Anderson because I had cancer in the left and right side of my collarbone, left and right side of my neck, left and right armpits, left breast, 36 lymph nodes. So it was
Wow.
spreading pretty fast. And then my left breast started to swell. That's a characteristic of inflammatory breast cancer, but that's at a later stage. So it's aggressive. It goes pretty fast, and it needs to be treated pretty quickly. And a lot of people get misdiagnosed because some doctors are not familiar with inflammatory, and they'll start treating you for infections because your breast may swell or you have the little rash. And that's where things go wrong, because it's so aggressive, you might not make it.
While you at home taking these antibiotics, this thing is spreading throughout your body because
Right.
they're not used to seeing this type of breast cancer, right? They're used to diagnosing, oh, they have a lump. We see a lump, we
Yes.
feel a lump, so we know that's what it is. But
Mm.
we need more doctors and oncologists that are able to spot, okay, no, this is inflammatory breast cancer. This is one of the signs. Let's move quickly to get this person in and get these tests done so we can get
Mhm.
ahead of this thing.
Yes.
Norma said this is some very good information, and it is because, Sharon, we are always talking about, you know, triple negative breast cancer. We're talking about
Mhm.
HER2 positive, but you never really hear about
Mhm.
inflammatory breast cancer. Like, what is it? So I'm
Yeah.
gonna give them a definition, and I know you already explained
Mhm.
what your symptoms was, what you was feeling. Inflammatory breast cancer is a rare and, as Sharon said, aggressive, and she mentioned this too, it can resemble an infection that you would have in your breast. And she mentioned that you can often be misdiagnosed because of that, but it can cause the skin to take on the appearance as an orange peel. Now that would scare me if on my breast. Like, so we all know how orange peel look. And so if you are at home and your breast look like that, it's starting to look like that, you need to be in the doctor's office like right away. Right away.
And I encourage you, if you have any pain in your breast, anything that's different than normal, I encourage you to see a doctor.
Yes.
And get a second opinion if you have to. That wouldn't be a bad idea to get a second opinion.
Yes. I mean, it's going to give you a peace of mind. So you know that you've done everything that you can, to get all of the information about what's going on in your body. So that definitely. So I found out that this is it's not just for women either, that men can actually get inflammatory breast cancer as well. So and what really scares me, Sharon, is that it seems like with every breast cancer that's out there, it always have African American women are more likely to die from it. They're more likely to, we're getting it at an alarming rate. It's like, what is really going on when it comes to breast cancer and African American women?
I can say there is some disparity of treatment. You may not get the best treatment as another race. And that happens more often. And in my case, I had good insurance. I don't even understand why or how I was able to walk out of the emergency room. They kept me overnight, go home. I was in stage 4. And you had not my diagnosis, but you had something in the report saying I had enlarged lymph nodes, which should have triggered you to tell me that or to do something about that. So this taught me a valuable lesson to be my own advocate. There's nothing wrong with you going to doctors, get your medical reports, read your own medical reports. I would have to get the reports, Google some of these words online because some of the stuff is over your head. And there's nothing wrong with Googling the terms online and trying to keep up and figure out and understand what's going on with you. I do encourage people to get copies of your medical records. You'll be surprised.
I totally agree. I think a lot of people don't do that. Like they don't even, you just go off of what the doctor says. You know, you don't really take the time it's your report. So you have a right to ask for the report to see what's in there and to go over it or take it to somebody else and say, hey, I really don't understand what the doctor said. Can you just break it down for me? Because if they saw the enlarged lymph nodes, like you said, you and I are saying that should have triggered it. They should have said, okay, she's going to have to stay here a day or two. We're going to admit her because we need to run some more tests to see why these are enlarged. Or maybe we'll put her, admit her and we'll give her the antibiotics and we'll watch her to see what's going on. Not send me out on the street. No. No. Now, if you hadn't been an advocate for yourself, if you hadn't been that type of person, the average person probably would have just went home and be like, oh, okay, they said wasn't nothing wrong with me. You just at home.
And I probably wouldn't be here today had I not had that knee surgery scheduled, because that's the doctor that looked at the reports and said, did they tell you anything about enlarged lymph nodes? I'm like, no. So I would not be here today because and move so aggressively, it'd have been all over.
Wow. MM said yes, and it said how the world works like that. Works like that the treatment it should be across the board, right? It should be treatment across the board. If you have this type of cancer, then everybody should be getting that same treatment, right? It shouldn't be, okay, this person is getting in quicker to get this chemo, to get this surgery, they're getting in quicker, but your appointment is scheduled a month out. You starting your stuff late and this stuff is growing in my body. Like, let's go, let's move. Like, how long do we have to fight to have fair treatment? When it comes to your life is on the line, like it shouldn't be.
Right. And I'm getting treated at MD Anderson. I've been getting treated with them since 2013, and I can see the difference. I'm spoiled now. I don't even know how I could go outside of them because I can see the difference. And I've had knee surgeries and other things before, but I can see the difference on how I'm treated, how information is given to me, how my oncologist sits there and crosses her arm and is like, relax, like, do you have anything? Or do you understand? Every time I get I'm seeing with my doctor, she brings my reports in from whatever procedure I had, CT scans or whatever. She brings it with her, reads it line by line with me, and hands me that copy. So, that's something rare. And the standard of treatment needs to be the same everywhere. Everybody should be able to have the doctor explain to them what's wrong with them. That should be standard of care. You shouldn't have to walk out and I have cancer, but what do I do?
Yes. Or call you on the phone while you're at home by
Yeah,
yourself and tell you have cancer. And
yeah.
yes, I totally
Hmm.
agree with that. It's the doctor's bedside manner. So everybody don't have that type of bedside manner to where
Hmm.
they could be personable with their patients. And
Hmm.
I figure like if you're going to be a doctor, you should have that type of manner because
Hmm.
I mean, this is somebody's life and people mental is involved. You don't know what they're
Yes,
going to do when they get home after they get this information.
yes.
So you should be able to get them some sort of peace before they leave,
Hmm.
knowing that they have gotten all of the information. You have a plan in action. You know what's going to
Hmm.
happen versus me going home with the big, you have cancer. And
Yes.
we, like you said, we know what we see on TV
Hmm.
from cancer. So you going home with
Yes.
that picture in your mind. I'm about to die.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I said, stage 4, let me get my house in order. I'm about to die, and but when I went to MD Anderson, they're so relaxed. It was troubling to me, but they're used to handling difficult cases. And when I talk to other patients, when I go to conferences in different states, I feel horrible, when I hear stories from other cancer patients about how long it took them to get a body scan just to see what's going on, how long to get a biopsy. Time is of an essence when you have
Yes.
certain types of cancer. You can't wait a month. You can't wait, you know, and I can go on and on. Social Security, you can't wait for money so you can get treatment. It's a lot going on that shouldn't be going on, and that's why you have to be your own advocate. Get involved with uh, one of these programs and start advocating. Going to Capitol Hill. That's what we're going to be doing. My
I
first time going to legislate, I was like, talking to these legislators face to face was awesome. They got to see exactly what I'm talking, how a patient looks, what's going on, because what came out of my mouth didn't match how I look. I explained to them the side effects that I deal with every day, and they're looking at me that you don't look sick. I don't. You mean to be rude? No, I don't. But this is how I want everybody to look. I want everybody to walk out of be able to walk out of the hospital and have prolonged life. I want a cure at the end of the day, but at the least, I need their life to be prolonged. We need to fight for these things.
Yes, and have a good quality of life. I know
Yes,
you mentioned in your bio that you sent me how you got to the point to where you couldn't even walk. It hurt for you to even walk. Talk about when you told your doctor you wanted to stop the treatment.
yes, I had a reoccurrence because inflammatory breast cancer is known to come back in different places. So I had a reoccurrence of cancer in 2015 in my spine. Um, Now I used to work for the Postal Service for 19 years, so I already had back pains, and but this pain was a little different. So I went to my oncologist. I sent her a message and let her know I was having back pain. She scheduled me an appointment to come in. See, this is another thing. We don't have all the doctors that would do that. They'll say take some inflammatory pills and lay down, rest your back. I've heard people go to be sent to chiropractors and massages, and you're dying of cancer. But they're not taking the time to do that extra work. Because when you're metastatic, I'm metastatic. When you have inflammatory, you have to take that seriously. That little pain may be something more than what you think. So they did the biopsy, and I did have cancer in the spine. So the treatment that I was on at that time, it caused, I was supposed to do 6 cycles of that treatment. I made it to number 4, but I started getting neuropathy, severe neuropathy in my feet and neuropathy in my hands. I couldn't even walk anymore because the pain was so bad in my feet. Um, I could only sit up in a chair and sleep or try to sleep. I couldn't lay down flat because it would trigger. It's like lightning striking in your feet to trigger pain. So that was my quality of life was gone, and I couldn't even hobble to the bathroom. That was painful. So I met with my oncologist and told her I can't do this anymore. And so they did body scans again. They said, well, this cancer has shrunk in your spine, and we can just stop this form of treatment and keep you on your maintenance therapy. And that's what we did. So there's a little bit of cancer in my spine, and some people do walk around with some cancer in them that your doctor should watch closely. Your mind watches it closely.
Sharon, how did you accept that you had cancer? And how did others when you broke the news to them?
It was a hard thing because I had children still in school. And my daughter, actually, it was her senior year. So it was a lot going on through my head because I'm like, this is supposed to be her last year of school, and she's supposed to just live her life. And I didn't want them to lose focus on studies. So my husband and I talked about it, and we waited till they went on holiday break, to let them know that I was dealing with cancer, because at that point we didn't know. When they said stage 4, we just didn't know what was going to happen. MD Anderson had an awesome video for children that I let them watch, and then we talked about it. It talks in a kid's perspective, and it has, it's like cartoon characters and cancer cells, and let you know how cancer works and how your parent may be feeling. They have great resources for you when you, and that's another thing. Other people need resources, because there's a lot going to be going on when you're dealing with cancer. So we sat them down and we explained everything to them, and it was very tough. It was tough, and then I had to tell my mother, and she was actually sick at the time, and I had just had a mastectomy, and she got really sick. I mean, I'm going to travel to see her. I had drainage tubes hanging out of me. It was a lot, to process, and she did pass away January of 2014, right in the middle of my initial treatment. And it was I was very emotional. Even at her funeral, I'm walking with my best friend, Teresa, and my toenail falls off. This is just something that happens. You'll lose your toenails, your fingernails, your hair. And, it was devastating, but I'm the type that I can make light of anything. And that's, how my family is. We can just be crazy about anything. And you kind of have to keep that spirit about you and keep thinking positively, because this could really take you to a dark place.
It sure can. Hey, Sharon, thank you for tuning in. We're going to take a quick break. I just want to highlight my sponsor and make sure that she knows that I'm telling people about Allstate Insurance with Paula Kelly. She's located at 327 East Glenwood Lansing Road in Glenwood, Illinois. And you can give her a call at 708-758-3300. Again, make sure that you let her know that Warriors Talk sent you. All right, so we're talking to Sharon, and she is telling us about inflammatory breast cancer. We left off with her telling us about her having to break the news to her mom, who actually ended up passing away while she was in the middle of her cancer battle. Would you say, Sharon, that was one of the difficult challenges that you had, was breaking the news to your family?
Yes. And my husband was trying to hold everything down, at the time. And especially when I had the severe neuropathy, he was just looking at me saying, I don't know what to do. He was trying to help as best he could. He did find a way to help with some of the pain. He had filled a tub up full of ice, and I would put my feet in there. That would lessen the pain for the neuropathy. But then, your feet would get cold, you have to take it out of the tub. But he tried to make me as comfortable as he could, because there's no cure for the neuropathy, And MD Anderson did have a biofeedback program. It was on trial that I went through, where they set you up to get these signals to go through these nodes, and it did help with some of the pain, but it doesn't take it all the way.
Wow. Norma Gross says she loves your spirit, Sharon.
Oh, thank you.
Sharon, you mentioned a clinical trial. They say that African Americans do not
Mhm.
participate in the clinical trials. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
My home is Alabama, so I'm very much aware of the Tuskegee experiment, and that left a bad taste in African Americans' mouth for years and probably years to come. So it's hard to get people to be involved when you're forced into an experiment that you didn't want to be in that situation, and people know the history of it. It sticks with them. But we have to understand that even when you take a Tylenol, any common medicine over the counter, those things went through trials. And they don't have enough data from African Americans for these treatments that we have out. We're down at the highest rate, but we need to participate in clinical studies as well to get treatment that would match us. So it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, to get that trust back, but we have to go ahead and move forward and get that trust back and participate.
I like how you just broke that down. So it was really smooth. We're dying at an alarming rate, and when they're working on these medicines, we're not at the table. So
Yes.
it's not benefiting us. So we
Yes.
have to get to the table. Your bestie says she's so proud of you, Teresa.
She keeps me grounded.
Yes, you need that. Your support system. Talk about the
Mhm.
support system when you're going through. It's so detrimental to your survivorship going through this.
Yes, having a support system is very important. My husband's always been there, and he goes to all my treatments with me.
Wow.
And my children, you know, my youngest daughter would do all the running up and down the stairs to bring me things when I was originally going through chemo because I was having a lot of chronic fatigue. And my oldest daughter, she still texts me with things and how you doing, what's going on, and follows me to if I'm in a participating in I was in a fashion show this weekend to raise money for cancer patients. She came down, drove all the way down to Galveston to support me. But my best friend, she keeps me grounded because we've been friends since elementary school. So we've known each other for a long time. So she knows me, knows what I need, and she's my spiritual guider, prays for me. And I do tell people, don't be ashamed, because in our community, African American community, don't be ashamed to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
Talk about it. Yes.
Yes, because you have to keep your mind right. It's a lot. It's a lot when you're dealing with cancer. You have to keep your mind right because sometimes you have the diagnosis, but there's other things that come along. You might not have a side effect till later. I have lymphedema in my left arm. Sometimes it gets on my nerve because my arm is swell up. Just these little things that you're thinking about, it gets in your way. The neuropathy in my feet. Sometimes I walk like I'm drunk. I hate to get pulled over because I'm not going to pass that sobriety test because I wobble sometimes. Sometimes it gets on my nerve. I can't wear heels anymore. I have a prosthetic on the left side, so I can't just run out and get a dress or a shirt. Little tiny things. All of that stuff builds up. It may seem like minor stuff, but all of that stuff builds up. And I can't do things with my kids like I used to. And things I want to do, I can't do some things, so you just have to come to terms with it. But you still need that support system to help you navigate through those things.
Yes, Kenya said it's definitely very important to have a support team, and she said it's
Mhm.
definitely a lot to take. It's a lot to intake going through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, the initial you have cancer, but they
Hmm.
don't really break down every little thing that you may encounter. Some things you bring
Yeah.
to your doctor's attention, like, "Hey, this is what I'm going through," and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's
Hmm.
normal, that's common."
Hmm.
So it's a lot to take in, but I
Hmm.
want to say, Sharon, your spirit is just like, oh my God, for you to be fighting right now, but you're fighting for other people. You're not just
Yes.
consumed and worried about sharing. It's like,
Yes.
I'm gonna get this information out because other people are not being treated fairly. People are dying because they're not getting the information and the treatment that they need. And
Yes.
we don't a lot of times hear the information. For some reason,
Right.
we run when we talk about cancer. It's like, oh, they talking about cancer again. I don't want to hear that. I don't have cancer. Ain't nobody in my family have cancer. But we know that everybody knows somebody who has been touched by this
Yes.
horrible disease.
Yes.
So,
And in the African American community, you may not know until they're getting buried
oh God,
because we don't want to talk about it.
yes,
And I'm trying to change that narrative. Talk about it. I may post things that I had something with my husband first. He's like, "Well, do it, do whatever." Um, about my breast form going up on my shoulder or something. Just to let people know what you go through, what you can do to get through that experience. Having a prosthetic or whatever. You just need to hear somebody say, "I've done that. I've been through it, and it's okay."
yes. And then it gives you hope because then you're like, all right, she got
Mhm.
through it. So I see
Yeah.
somebody, I can get through it. But we got to open our
Mhm.
mouths and share it. You know,
Yes.
don't, don't be ashamed to share it because somebody else needs that hope. Somebody
Mhm.
else needs. Anna said, so basically you got to get used to it. And now it's just normal.
It's the new norm. It's a new norm. Yeah. And
Yes.
and don't and I'm not going to say that I don't go through depression because I do. So people are like, "Oh, she's on 10." I'm not on 10 all the time. I go through depression. I talk about that. And
Yeah.
but I have a support system. Um, some of them's online now. Norma, Deborah, uh, also. But you reach out to your support system. Go have a coffee with your friends. Don't stay in your house. Because that makes that whole everything just close in on you. You just be thinking about your diagnosis. Continue to live your life. If you can only ride in the car, go ride. You might not be able to walk. Go ride in the car. Just keep smelling the roses. Is what I say.
Yes. Is it Tangelia? She said yes. Norma said, so true. Kenya said that the numbers in the African American community are alarming.
Yes.
It really is. Um,
Yes.
like Sharon mentioned, that clinical trials, we can try to decrease some of these numbers. Sharon, you mentioned that you're in your support system, that your bestie prayed for you.
Yes.
How important does faith play in cancer?
Um, Getting that diagnosis will bring you to your knees. If nothing else, it will bring you to your knees, and there's nowhere you can go to get that kind of support, but from God. So you have to stay prayerful.
I like that.
Mhm.
Kenya mentioned depression and anxiety is so real,
Yes.
and she agrees that faith plays a major part.
Yes.
Did you have, Sharon, this why me moment?
Yes. I had a why me, why now? Because my kids are in school. I want to see my kids graduate. I don't understand. And just why? And I, just question it. And then I had to change that way of thinking and stay prayerful. And I would talk to my best friend Teresa, and she'll kind of straighten me out biblically. And it would make you go back to that book. It'll take you back to the Bible. It'll make you go back into prayer and re-examine your faith.
It's like I thought I had a close relationship with God, but now that
Mhm.
I'm going through this, you're like, wow, I was really far off.
Yeah,
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 yeah, I
yeah.
totally agree
And
with
you
that.
you'll come back and forth to thoughts, because you're not gonna have that smooth sailing. Something could trigger you, and you can just fall back again. Oh, here's the neuropathy. Now I got thyroid. There's a lot of stuff that cancer causes. I got
Yes.
thyroid induced, cancer induced thyroid. And other problems that come along with it. So it's sometimes it's like, oh, something else. I got something else. How much more side effects can I have? And I have a bucket full of them, but I just still try to do things and go out.
Yes. Kenya said that's the first thing, the why me. And then Norma said to stay prayerful. What would you say, Sharon, would be like one of the defining moments in your cancer journey?
I think the realization that I could be gone, and I don't think my kids were ready. I don't think my husband was ready. What are they gonna do, without me? And that was just hard. That was hard because I kept saying I don't want to leave, while they're still trying to find themselves, my kids, my girls, and I don't want to leave my husband, dealing with the girls, because I was usually the one that was mostly involved with them, and I kept saying he's not ready for his wife to go, so it was it's a lot.
What advice would you give someone who may be dealing with inflammatory breast cancer right now?
I would say that things are different now, because I can tell you, not many years before I was initially diagnosed, they didn't have good treatments for us. So the options are a lot better. We're living longer, and the treatments are, I was starting on a IV bag. I would have to go in every 3 weeks, get an IV bag. Now I get an injection with the same chemotherapy. Now it's just a matter of a shot. So things are coming along. They're coming up with different treatments, better treatments. So it's a lot of hope for us. There was not a lot of hope for people with inflammatory breast cancer. It's a little more hope now, and that's what I'm loving right now. Is they're working on it, but it takes us to just talk about it and make the world aware, because, like I said, women aren't aware that they can get a cancer that has no signs or no symptoms, no lumps, no bumps.
Wow. Talk about survivorship.
I don't even know what to call myself. I call myself either thriver or forever survivor, because there's no cure for my type of cancer, and it's known to come back, somewhere else. So it's like I don't see myself as just a survivor, because some people may have cancer and they just get the lump removed and they never deal with it again. Right. Survivor. My situation, inflammatory breast cancer patients, is a little different.
You mentioned advocacy. Talk about some of the different organizations that you work with as it relates to advocating.
I work with one of my top advocacies when I first got trained is with Living Beyond Breast Cancer. Living Beyond Breast Cancer, they will train you to be an advocate, and you'll build some close relationships, and they'll teach you how to go out and give you material, supplies to share with the community. They help you in that aspect. Teresa's Research Foundation is another organization that I work with. We get training with them as well, and they and I push sponsor them because they do a lot of research for cancer, metastatic cancer. Metavive is another one. 100% of their proceeds go to metastatic research. And triage cancer, I like that because a lot of people deal with a lot of cancer people. When you're at work, you deal with a lot of poor treatment sometimes because you have cancer. You may be fired. You may be retaliated against, picked on because you have so many doctor's appointments Triage Cancer is an organization that will give you legal advice. That's something that cancer patients need. They don't need to be fired from their jobs because they have cancer. So all these organizations, there's more, a whole list of the people that Susan G. Komen, I work with them as well. I've done focus groups with them, especially when they wanted to advocate more for the Black community. I was, always down for that. And it's just, there's a lot of them. And sometimes you don't have to stick with one because there's a lot of work to do.
Yes.
And you may think that you can't advocate, but it's not all about, I have to have a medical degree to participate or help. You don't. You just need a voice, whether you type it or speak. I'm not very good at speaking, and but like I said, any little bit helps because people need to see that there's hope, there's help, and there's things that they can do to help them.
Awesome. Well, I can't tell you're not good at speaking. You did an amazing job today, so I appreciate it. I'm going to ask you to give some words of wisdom to anyone about inflammatory breast cancer that you want to leave the listeners with.
One thing I'd like to say is you can be down, but don't stay down. That's very important. When you're dealing with inflammatory breast cancer, continue, even during COVID. I had to repeat that to people. During COVID, you still need to go in for your tests and your exams and your appointments that you regularly have. I didn't stop doing that. I didn't stop going to the dentist because another thing is with cancer patients' teeth, their treatments do a lot to your teeth. So keep those appointments. And that's all I can say with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate, again, you being vulnerable, coming on, sharing, educating, and empowering individuals about inflammatory breast cancer. Sharon, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Kenya said, come on now, experience is the best teacher. And the last comment will go to Tracy. She said, my sister is going through it right now. So you just never know who may need this information.
Yes.
You just never know. I will leave you guys with this. My closing sponsor is Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay. She's catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. You can go to marykay.com /GDOTSON for some of her new exciting products. Join me next Monday at 6 p.m. right here on Intellectual Radio. I'll leave you with these words of wisdom. The greatest glory in living lies not never failing, but in rising every time we fall. And that's by Nelson Mandela. As always, thank you for tuning in to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we are changing lives one warrior at a time.
Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on IntellectualRadio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell, where we encourage, educate, and empower you into action.